our oldest tractor that we have. Yeah, it's the only one that I have left. That would have been my dad's. My dad had passed away from cancer 37 years ago, I guess it is now. And yeah, about 6, 8, maybe close to 10 years ago now, I had it restored and got it repainted, and we never used it a whole lot other than for some hay rides and some little events like that. But we did start using a little bit here this fall. Everything still works good on it, runs good. It's, yeah, really good solid tractor. It's an International 856, has a turbo on it. It's turned up. It's probably got about 125 horsepower. If you or the last time we dyno tested it, that's what it had. Yeah, the guy that restored it for us did a beautiful job on it. He went over it and made sure everything was right, and yeah, and then repainted it and put a new seat on it. Yeah, just fixed her all up. So. Welcome back to the channel. Today is Monday, December the 4th. We're gonna try to slip an extra video in here and have it come out on December the 7th. Dad passed away from cancer on December 7th, 1986. That'll be 37 years ago here on the 7th. So is what we have here. Would have had a lot to do with my dad starting it many years ago. But yeah, again, I'll just say my parents' names were Enos and Betty Heggie. They would have both been born in 1930. They grew up in the post-Depression era, and yeah, I could have had a lot of stories to tell from that. But they got married in January of 1951. They would have started up housekeeping there right beside my dad's parents, kind of in the same house or connected to the same house. And I think it was a little over a year later, they started renting a farm in Mechanicsburg, Pennsylvania. My dad would have been from Hagerstown, Maryland. My mom would have been from Mechanicsburg, Pennsylvania. And yeah, so yeah, they started renting a farm. I think if I remember the dates of all that right, it would have been in the spring of 1952. So it was a little over a year after they were married. I'm pretty sure it was 1952. But they were on the rented farm for 7 years, and this farm where we're at now came up for sale. It would have been sold on a public auction. There was a family in this area that would have had a farmer's market, and they would have had 2 farms that they raised steers, fattened out steers or fat cattle to butcher to sell in their market, and later turned into a family-run grocery store, or it might have even been at that point. I think when he first started it, it would have been more of a farmer's market. Yeah, I never did hear the details of why they decided to sell the farms, but they had 2 farms here. They're probably about 3-4 miles apart, and they came up on public auction. That would have been in the fall of 1958, October of 1958. So my dad was able to purchase this farm. It's 194 acres, the home farm is, and yeah, I wish some things were like they were then, because he bought this farm for $35,000. But yeah. Anyhow, yeah, things are quite different. A lot of other things would have been different back then too. But anyway, moving on. Yeah, they bought this in the fall of 1958, moved here in the spring of 1959. So it would have been on a rented farm for 7 years. I think, if I remember the story right, when they started milking, they were milking around 10 cows. And when they bought this farm, they were milking 24. And they moved here and soon had to herd up to around 40 cows, somewhere around that range, for a number of years. But when Dad bought this place, it was not fixed up to milk at that point, because they raised the steers here, everything, the barn, there was a bank barn here. It was all open underneath just for like loose housing. So he put in a double 4 milking parlor along the one end, later added a 5th stall to it, and that would have been in the day and age where milking parlors were just starting to come out, or people were just starting to put them in. I think it was in the early 50s, somewhere in that range, when yeah, milking parlors started people started using them. I think my dad, all of his life of farming, he shipped milk to Harrisburg Dairies, and we continue to do that. It's a small family-owned dairy here in Harrisburg, Pennsylvania. And yeah, and he would have shipped milk. Between me and him, we would have probably shipped milk there for probably pushing somewhere in the 70 years, a little over 70-year range. But he, when he first started milking here in the spring of 1959, Harrisburg Dairies did not take milk in bulk yet, like from a bulk tank. They were still taking it in cans, but he knew that they were going to start taking it bulk that fall. I think it was in October of that year when they started picking it up bulk from the bulk tanks. And so my dad, actually, they put in a milk tank whenever they were fixing up for the milking setup. And they, my dad would help the milkman bucket it out and put it into milk cans whenever the milkman came. Seems like a lot of work, and I'm sure it was, but in the grand scheme of things, probably was the best way to do it. But so yeah, yeah, they milked in that parlor for a number of years, but they put it in, the parlor they put in, like I said, was in under the old bank barn along the one end. The old bank barns in our area, most of them have stone foundations. Pretty much all of them do, or did at that point for sure. And being it was along the end wall there, it kind of always stayed damp and never dried out real well, and things started rusting out, and it wasn't long till they needed to do something else. And so I think it was in the early winter of 1971, he built a new parlor. That was a double 6, and there was a date stamped on the one step of March of 1971. So that would have been, I'm not sure the exact date they started milking in there, but yeah, we would have continued to milk in that double 6. We would have updated some equipment in there over the years, but we continued to milk in that double 6 till 1999. We remodeled it, and still the same building, but we expanded it to a double 11, so we have 11 on a side with 22 milkers. But yeah, my dad would have made a lot of improvements in the farm over the years, and after he passed away, I took over managing it. The first year, obviously my mom and I had a sister at home yet. All of my older siblings were all married and away from home. I had 2 brothers. There's 8 of us in our family. There's 4 boys and 4 girls. I had 2 brothers that were and are still farming in South Carolina. My oldest brother that was down there, his wife was from that area. He liked that area and moved down there. And my other brother decided that's where he wanted to go as well. So yeah, my oldest brother would have been in Maryland at that point, later moved to Fulton County on a farm back there, but he had passed away from a farm accident around 20 years ago. Yeah, from injuries from a farm accident. So yeah, but anyway, moving on from that, after my dad passed away, that first year, my second oldest brother, one of them that's in South Carolina, came and helped that spring to plant corn. My dad passed away in December. The neighbors, yeah, they were really helpful over that time too. Not so much on the day-to-day managing or running the farm, but they were there to help in any way they could. But my oldest brother, or next oldest brother, would have came and helped that spring to plant corn, and he came back up maybe for a week that fall, if I remember right, and helped fill fallow. But after that, we were pretty much on our own. And yeah, but we did have really good neighbors. Yeah, a lot of people we could ask advice from. My brothers were always available to ask advice as well. And I got married in November of 1992. My mom and I had formed a partnership a little bit before that. And yeah, we would have had that partnership for approximately 2 years till we bought the rest of her out and rented the farms from her for a number of years. Yeah, I think it was 1992 we bought a second farm here right beside us, and that took our total acres up to a little over 300. and which was really nice in a lot of ways. But yeah, the farm slowly grew from where it was then to where it is now. My dad taught me a lot. Even though he would have passed away when I was 14, he taught me a lot and shaped a lot of who I am. Found out he had cancer about 10 months before he passed away. It would have been pretty well advanced when he found out he had it. Back then it was melanoma skin cancer. Back then they didn't have much of a very good cure rate to start with for that cancer, and his was pretty far advanced when he found out he had it. I think he took a couple treatments that spring, but he got terrible sick from it, and he made the choice not to take any more treatments, and did fairly well all summer, the summer of 1986. Let me see, but then I guess it was around the end of September, beginning of October, he found out some more, had some more health issues, and went downhill pretty rapidly. The last month or so he was in a fair amount of pain before he passed away, in various off and on from time to time. But yeah, but anyway, what I was going to say about that, my dad taught me a lot. Even that last summer, he was showing me everything along the way, pretty much every step of the way. He taught me how to, if there was anything I didn't know before that summer, he taught me how to do it. That fall, he actually left me do all the chopping when we chopped corn for silage. And yeah, just a lot of little things. I mean, obviously there was still a lot I had to learn after that, but that was all part of it. But so yeah, my wife and I think I shared this before, but we do have 3 children. They range from 29 to 22. They are all 2 sons and 1 daughter. They all have places of their own. They're all locally here though, within less than a mile of the home farm. They all are involved in the farm. Our oldest son is, we formed a partnership with him a little over a year ago. Our other 2 children work here at this point, so we'll see what the future all holds for that. So one thing you will take notice, there was a bank barn on this farm when parents bought it. It was a fairly large bank barn. It was a 50 by 100, and it would have had, but we lost that. We had a barn fire in August of 2006, and that burnt, so we don't have that anymore. I'll maybe do a video about some of that sometime. But yeah, I've always enjoyed farming. It's kind of more of a way of life than it is a job. Even though it is what you do for a job, it becomes a way of life and part of who you are. And yeah, I've always enjoyed it, and I'm not sure what else I would do. It's just what I've always enjoyed doing. I like working with animals. I like every year's a different story with different challenges. But yeah, it's always good to be a part of it. Yeah, I'm here in our milk house. Just finished up pretty much for the day, getting ready to head in. But yeah, I didn't want to share this yet. My dad was far from a perfect man, but he did try his best to do what was right and live a God-honoring life. And yeah, I did want to say this yet. If you're out there and you are in a family situation where you have your dad there with you on the farm, don't take that for granted. I know there's different personalities and different things to work through, different ways of sorting through things, but yeah, if you are able to have your dad, work alongside your dad, be thankful for that and do what you need to do to make it work. At this point, I have the privilege of working with my children.